All right, NFL Draft Night 1, Round 1, instant reaction here on Touchdown Talks. If you're new here, hit subscribe, leave a like on the video if you do enjoy. Let me know down in the comments what you think of your favorite team's draft so far. Whether they picked, traded out of the round, or maybe you're a fan of one of the teams like the Broncos, Packers, Ravens, and a few others, Bengals, who weren't even in this round at all. How are you feeling as we now await day 2 of the draft, which will include rounds 2 and 3? Let me know all that down below. But let's get into my reaction to round 1. First of all, of course, right off the gates, no surprise, the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2026 draft is Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza going from Indiana to the Raiders. Not much of a surprise there. Like many NFL drafts of recent years, the first round pick has been pretty much decided in January. Really not much as far as any questioning there as to who was going to make the pick and who they were going to take. We really haven't had much question as far as, first of all, trading into the first overall pick would be very expensive for any team to do any year, but certainly in recent years, and most years, it's going to go to whatever the top quarterback prospect is, and chances are whatever team has that number 1 overall pick, most of the time they're going to have earned it on their own record, which likely means they need a quarterback. And even if they didn't earn it with their own record, like the Bears a couple years ago, it was a pick that had come from other trades from them earning it through not being good. So quite often the prospect at quarterback that's coming in, that top prospect, usually good enough. It's usually a no-brainer. So sure enough, number 1 overall picked, Fernando Mendoza, reigning college football champion quarterback, now goes to Las Vegas, who is partially owned by Tom Brady. And Tom Brady had a tweet shortly after the pick welcoming Fernando Mendoza and, also addressing just rookies coming into the league in general, encouraging them to work hard and things like that. Pretty cool tweet from the GOAT of the sport. But let's move on to the other picks that I found the most interesting as we went throughout the draft. I'm not going to hit on every draft pick. Of course, if you want to know every single pick, chances are you either watch the draft or you can find the results of the first round pretty easily online. So let's jump forward a few picks to the number 4 overall all picked in this draft. That was with the Tennessee Titans. This was really the first draft pick in the draft that was sort of an unknown. Really, the first 3 picks went pretty much exactly as had been forecasted by insiders and things like that for weeks now. So first 3 picks were not really too much of a surprise. And then, pick number 4, the Tennessee Titans did stick and take their draft pick here. And with that pick, they ended up drafting wide receiver, that being Carnell Tate from Ohio State. First out of 4 top draft picks coming out of Ohio State this year, and a bit of a surprise for the fact that he was the first of those Ohio State prospects. Some people had him number 1 for wide receivers, some had him 2. It was kind of between him and Jordan Tyson, who went a few picks later to the Saints at number 7. So Carnell Tate, the Titans draft a wide receiver to help out Cam Ward. Wide receiver, not exactly a pick that the Titans were expected to make in the first round. It was thought that the Titans might go elsewhere and then, maybe address wide receiver later a little bit, but they take Carnell Tate. The next pick I wanted to note down was number 6 overall, that being the Cleveland Browns, and this was the first trade that we had in the draft. There was a lot of anticipation that this first round was going to be trade heavy, quite possibly even in the top 10. Really, the top 10 was pretty quiet as far as trades go. We'll see, we'll go over in this video how the trades went later. But for the first trade on draft night, the Cleveland Browns trade down with the Chiefs, who come up from the number 9 spot. In exchange for that, the Browns did get not only the number 9, but the Browns also acquired the 74th overall pick and the 148th pick. And with the 6th overall pick, the Kansas City Chiefs selected cornerback Mansour Delane out of LSU. So, addressing secondary needs that they have. Chiefs don't pick in the top 10 very often, so the belief is that, the Chiefs figure, hey, we're already drafting in the top 10. Why not? We can jump up even a couple more spots. Take the guy that we really want here before he gets taken out from under us. We don't plan on drafting here in the top 10 again for a long time, like we have been for years. So we'll see, of course, how that goes for the Chiefs. But being that, again, this is really the first time they've drafted in the top 10 in a long time, assuming this pick works out for the Chiefs, a worthwhile move to give up 3 picks and to move up 3 spots. Next draft pick I wanted to note was the number 11 overall pick. This was with the Dolphins trading the pick to the Cowboys, moving back 1 spot. And the Cowboys come up. They also gave up the 177th and 180th pick. So, the Dolphins got a couple extra late round picks in exchange for moving back 1, and the Cowboys end up selecting Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. I was honestly a bit surprised that Caleb Downs even made it this far into the draft at pick 11. I had been under the impression that Caleb Downs was going to go in the top 10, if not even top 9, but slid just a couple spots out of that and goes to the Dallas Cowboys, who are a team that has tons of defensive needs, of course, so definitely a pick that makes a ton of sense for the Cowboys to have taken at number 11. Then we go down to pick number 13. This was probably the biggest surprise of the draft, although not a complete surprise. Depending on, if you've been really paying attention to insiders and draft rumors, this was not outside of the realm of possibilities. With the 13th overall pick, the Los Angeles Rams selected quarterback Ty Simpson from Alabama. Coming into the draft tonight, there had been a lot of conversation around Ty Simpson. Was he even worth a first-round draft pick? A lot of people didn't think he was even going to go in the first round. Thank you, ESPN, for more draft notifications. But, yeah, so, speaking of ESPN, one of the few who was advocating maybe a little too strongly for Ty Simpson with ESPN, got caught some flack for, saying Ty Simpson was way better than Fernando Mendoza. One of those things that, we'll have to see. And obviously for the Rams, with general manager Les Snead and head coach Sean McVay, they've been known in their time together with the Rams for having the F them picks mentality, quite often trading out of the first round of the draft. They've only made a couple picks now in the first round in their tenure, and the Rams have been pretty good for it. And the last time the Rams did make a first-round draft pick a couple years ago ended up being a star defensive player. So, Sean McVay, one of the smartest younger offensive head coaches in the league, if he believes in Ty Simpson, it may be true that he's worth the first round draft pick. And, the benefit for Ty Simpson, he's now not going to have to start right away. And that can be a big deal. There's tons of really well-known quarterbacks that we know in history now that were drafted to a team that was able to have them sit for a couple of years behind a good quarterback. And not only that, but Ty Simpson getting drafted to the Rams with a really good offensive head coach to sit behind really good quarterback in Matt Stafford. It's quite possible that Ty Simpson is going to be the true Matt Stafford heir for the Rams here in a few years. Matt Stafford's getting up there in age. It's been talked about that he's considering possibly playing 2 more years. Who knows? Maybe more, depending on how things go for him with him in the Rams and his health. But Matt Stafford's coming off an MVP season in a year where, at the beginning of 2025, going into the season, there was concerns about back issues for Matt Stafford, and he, fought through that and got into the season and was just fine. Won the MVP. And so, for Ty Simpson, not going to get to start right away, but he's going to get to learn under a really good head coach and back up a really good quarterback on a really good roster. And, either he starts in a couple of years for the Rams, 2-3 years, or if not, he gets to learn from them and then could be traded to another team. But, I think there's a real chance that Ty Simpson works out, whether it's especially if he does end up being the heir to Matt Stafford in LA. But if not, again, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks, including Baker Mayfield, who sort of resurrected their career by just being under Sean McVay for a short period of time in LA. So, quarterback whisperer sort of coach there. So, that was the real first and probably biggest surprise of the NFL draft. But again, if you were really deep into the draft rumors and sports coverage, I know one being Colin Cowherd on Fox Sports 1. He's pretty tapped in, as far as sources go. I know he's a friend of Les Snead. So, and he had talked about even today on his show on FS1 that, watch out for the Rams. They might pick Ty Simpson. Now, there was a belief that if anything, a team like the Rams or others might wait till later in the first round to pick him. But, for the Rams, you already had your pick sitting at 13 coming into tonight. There were other teams that were certainly rumored to be possibly interested in trading back up into the first round that quite possibly for Ty Simpson would have done so. So I don't think it was a bad pick for the Rams to use that on Ty Simpson. Again, most of the time they just trade away that draft pick for a free agent or something. So the Rams aren't exactly used to, expecting a first round pick to come in and start for them that very year. So that's not something they usually ask of first round picks. They usually trade them away. So, and again, the last time they did use it a couple years ago, they drafted the heir apparent pretty much to Aaron Darnold. So, a really great defensive player for them there now. So, again, Ty Simpson, is he going to be better than Fernando Mendoza? Is he going to be a bust? Is he going to be worse than Carson Beck? It's one of those we'll just have to wait and see. But certainly landing with the Rams, with Sean McVay, is very likely to help Ty Simpson in his NFL career. Moving on, we jump down to the number 20th overall pick. And with this pick, very interesting history to this pick. So the Dallas Cowboys had owned this pick, and they traded it to division rival in the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Cowboys traded the 20th pick in exchange for the 23rd, the 114th, and 137th picks from the Eagles. And with that pick, at number 20, the Eagles ended up selecting Mekhi Lemon out of USC at wide receiver. So there's two big things to note with this draft that are pretty huge. Firstly, for the Eagles, it's been pretty widely reported and understood that there seems to be a agreement already between the Eagles and the New England Patriots to trade A.J. Brown to the Patriots. Now, the only reason that trade has not already gone through due to contractual stuff. They're waiting for a deadline, that being June 1st. On June 1st, some of the salary cap type stuff, the way things work with A.J. Brown's contract, trading him will be more feasible for the Eagles to do it then. So it's pretty widely accepted as basically fact, and especially with this draft pick, signals that it's likely a done deal, that on June 1, A.J. Brown will be traded to the New England Patriots. Not sure, reporting isn't really out there on exactly what the trade would be for. With how highly anticipated the 2027 NFL draft is, I wouldn't be surprised if there are certainly some picks included in that. Of course, this will be after this year's draft, so likely some 2027 draft picks. Who knows, maybe a player from the Patriots. But yeah, the Eagles drafting a wide receiver here with their first pick in the draft likely signals that is a replacement for A.J. Brown. And then the other thing that is really interesting about this pick is it traces back to the last time the Eagles and Cowboys traded with each other on draft day. That goes back to 2021 when the Eagles and Cowboys switched picks. That year, the Cowboys traded back. The Eagles drafted Devontae Smith, and then with their pick, the Cowboys drafted Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons, of course, the Cowboys this past year at the beginning of 2025, they traded Micah Parsons to Green Bay. And this pick that the Cowboys just traded to the Eagles was from Green Bay in that trade. So really this Eagles-Cowboys division rivalry trade traces back to the previous time that they had made a draft day trade. So pretty interesting, crazy fact. It's funny when things like that in NFL history line up. Now jumping down 5 spots to the number 25 overall pick, that going with the Chicago Bears. One of the few picks in the late part of the first round where the team that took the pick was the team that earned it. After this, you'll see there was a firestorm of trades. But with the 25th overall pick, the Chicago Bears selected a safety out of Oregon, previously had played at Purdue, that being Dylan Thieneman. So, pretty exciting sounding player. This was one of the top picks on most, Chicago insiders, Chicago Bears fans lists. I hadn't even mentioned him yesterday because, to be honest, for a lot of people, it was kind of projected that Thieneman was going to be drafted before pick 25, so I didn't think there was any chance that he was even going to fall to the Bears. Again, as I had mentioned yesterday in my shorts video previewing the draft, top needs for the Bears were coming into tonight were edge and safety. Those were the top two. And they with a lot of edge players coming off the board already, they take a safety who, again, had kind of dropped compared to what most had expected. So I'm pretty excited by that pick. So that'll be a good one, of course. Had to address that one as a Chicago Bears fan. On the next pick, this is where the trades really started flying in. So with the 26th pick, the Buffalo Bills traded that to the Texans. So the Bills traded the 25th pick and the 91st pick in exchange for the 28th, 69th, and 167th pick. So traded 2, got 3 back. And with the 26th pick, the Texans selected an offensive guard, that being Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. And then we go to number 27 in the draft. And with that one, the 49ers trade their pick to the Dolphins in exchange for the 30th and 90th pick. And with that pick at 27, the Dolphins selected cornerback Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Then we move to number 28, which the Bills had just traded into. Bills went from number 26, traded down to number 28. Now at 28, the Bills don't make the pick. They traded it in division to the New England Patriots in exchange for the 31st pick and the 125th pick. And at number 28, the Patriots selected offensive tackle Caleb Lomu out of Utah. And then now down at number 30, so we actually had, in between there, pick number 29, we had the Chiefs stay and take a pick that was part of earlier trades. They ended up taking a defensive tackle, that being Peter Woods out of Clemson. But then down at number 30, we get another immediate draft pick trade, and that being with the 49ers once again trading down, this time trading the pick to the New York Jets. So the Jets, by this point, had already taken 2 players in the first round, and they trade from the second round back into the bottom of the first round to take a third player of the night. And with that, the New York Jets selected a wide receiver out of Indiana, that being Omar Cooper Jr. So a good wide receiver for them. Jets, 3 new rookies in the first round in 2026. And in exchange for that pick, again, this was the 30th pick, the 49ers got back a 33rd pick, so that'll be the first draft pick tomorrow in the second round, and they also got the 179th pick. So the 49ers, and as we'll see in just a second, the Bills making multiple trades to get out of the first round. And then at the number 31st pick, as I just alluded to, the Bills, who had traded from the 26th pick down to 28, then down to 31. Now at 31, the Bills trade again, this time to the Titans. And they did sort of a little bit more of a pick swap. So the Bills gave up the 31st, 69th, and 165th picks. And the Titans gave back the 35th, 66th, and 101st picks. But so with 31st overall, the Titans selected an edge rusher, that being Kendrick Falk out of Auburn, who actually was one of the players who I had thought was possibly going to go to the Bears at 25. But he goes instead to the Titans at 31. So with that kind of rounded out that rounded out the firestorm of draft trades towards the end of the draft tonight in round 1. And then rounding out the first round, we had the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks taking their pick at number 32. And they selected a replacement for the Super Bowl MVP who they lost to free agency, that being Kenneth Walker, who is no longer a Seahawk, and they choose their replacement for him, that being Jadarian Price, who was the second Notre Dame running back taken in the first round of the draft tonight. So first Notre Dame running back was, of course, Jeremiah Love, widely believed to be possibly the best prospect in this draft. He went pick number 3 to the Cardinals. But yeah, so second Notre Dame running back and the second running back overall in this draft going to the Seahawks, that being Jadarian Price. So, and again, very historic moment there for Notre Dame. First time in NFL history that the top 2 and only 2 running backs taken in the first round were from the same school. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, that ends day 1 and round 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft. Let me know down below what you thought of the first round. Again, let me know what you're expecting from your team going forward. I'd love to see what your thoughts down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.